Hello, and welcome back to Wild Sanative. I'm so grateful you chose to spend a little time with me today. Thank you for being here. In the last episode, I shared some of the wisdom that helped shape my healing journey. I spoke about the questions that arose after my son died. Questions about cruelty, disconnection, why people hurt one another, and about how healing slowly began when I stopped searching only for someone to blame and began searching for deeper understanding. The understanding that did not arrive all at once. It began with something much simpler. It began with learning how to become present within myself. And before that time, I did not fully understand how often I was reacting to life without realizing it. I did not always recognize when fear was shaping my thoughts. I did not always notice when grief was speaking through my anger. And I did not always understand how pain could influence a present moment. Like so many people, I had learned how to keep moving, how to handle what needed to be handled, how to care for others, how to stay busy, how to push through. But staying busy is not the same as being present, and surviving is not always the same as healing. For a long time, I believed healing meant finding a way to stop hurting. I wanted relief, I wanted peace, I wanted the pain to loosen its grip on my life. But what I slowly began to understand was that healing did not begin by escaping what I felt. It began by learning how to remain with myself while I felt it. And that wasn't easy. Presence can sound peaceful when we talk about it, but true presence often asks us to sit beside parts of ourselves we have spent years avoiding. The sadness we push down, the anger we are ashamed to feel, the fear we tried to control, the questions we could not answer, the memories we did not want to revisit. Presence does not demand that we solve all these things. It simply asks us to notice what is here, without immediately judging it, without pushing it away, without allowing it to take over everything. That was one of the first practical teachings that changed my life. I began learning how to observe my inner experience instead of becoming completely consumed by it. I began noticing the difference between having a thought and believing that that thought was true. The difference between feeling fear and allowing fear to make every decision. The difference between experiencing anger and becoming defined by anger. The difference between carrying grief and allowing grief to become my entire identity. This created something I had not felt in a very long time. Space. A small space between what I was feeling and how I chose to respond. And inside that space, I began to discover choice. I could pause before reacting. I could breathe before speaking. I could question a thought instead of automatically following it. And I could ask myself, what was truly happening beneath the surface? Was I angry? Was I hurt? Was I frustrated? Or was I afraid? Was I judging someone else, or was something in their behavior touching an unhealed place within me? These questions did not always bring immediate answers, but they brought awareness, and awareness began changing the way I lived. I started to understand that many of our reactions begin before we consciously choose them. The body tightens, the breath becomes shallow, the heart begins racing, and the mind quickly creates a story. And before we know it, we are speaking or acting from a place of fear, pain, or defensiveness. Presence interrupts the cycle. Sometimes only for a moment, but one moment can be enough. One conscious breath can keep us from saying something we do not truly mean. One pause can help us recognize that an old wound has entered a new conversation, and one moment of awareness can stop a familiar pattern from repeating itself. This does not mean we will never react. It does not mean we will always remain calm, and it does not mean difficult emotions disappear. Presence is not perfection. It is the willingness to return to the breath, the body, to return to honesty, to return to the present moment. Again and again, I began to see that I spent much of my life either revisiting the past or worrying about the future. The past carried grief, regret, and memories I wish I could change. The future carried fear, uncertainty, and questions I could not answer. But the present moment asks something different of me. It asks, what is happening right now? What am I feeling now? What does my body need now? What is mine to do in this moment? Not tomorrow, not next year, not for the rest of my life, just now in the moment. That became a gentler way of living. Instead of trying to carry the entire weight of my healing all at once, I began learning how to meet it one moment at a time. Some moments asked me to rest. Some moments asked me to cry. Some asked me to speak honestly. Some were to remain silent. Some asked me to set a boundary. Some asked me to soften. Some asked me to forgive myself for not knowing what I understood now. Presence helped me begin listening, not only to my thoughts, but to my body. The body often knows we are overwhelmed before the mind admits it. It speaks through tension, exhaustion, restlessness, shallow breathing, through the heaviness we feel in our chest or in our stomach. And for many years, I treated these sensations as inconveniences. I wanted them to stop. I wanted to push past them. But gradually I began to see them differently. These were not enemies, they were messages. They were signs that something within me needed attention. Not punishment, not judgment, but attention. And the shift was important. Because when we stop fighting every uncomfortable feeling, we create the possibility of understanding it. We begin to ask, what is this feeling trying to show me? What has become too much? What have I been abandoning myself? Where have I been abandoning myself? Where have I been saying yes when something within me was saying no? Where am I carrying something that does not belong to me? Where do I need support? Presence brings us back into relationship with ourselves, and that relationship matters because healing becomes very difficult when we do not feel safe within our own inner world. If every emotion is judged, we learn to hide it from ourselves. If every mistake is met with criticism, we learn to fear our own humanity. If every painful memory is pushed away, it remains unprocessed beneath the surface. But when we begin meeting ourselves with patience, something starts to soften. We no longer have to run from every feeling. We no longer have to pretend we are fine when we are not. And we no longer have to force an answer before we are ready. We can simply begin by being honest. This is what I feel. This is what hurts. This is what I fear. This is what I need. This is what I do not yet understand. That honesty is not weakness. It is the beginning of trust. And the more I practice presence, the more I began trusting myself, not because I always knew what to do, but because I was learning not to abandon myself when life became difficult. And that may be one of the deepest forms of healing, learning to stay, learning to remain beside yourself, learning to offer yourself the patience, compassion, and care you have spent years offering someone else and everyone else. This practice also changes the way I relate to other people. When I became more aware of my own reactions, I became less likely to place them entirely into someone else. I could still recognize harmful behaviors. I could still speak honestly, and I could still protect myself. But I did not have to respond from the deepest part of my wound. I could choose clarity over impulsiveness, discernment over assumption, boundaries over resentment, and compassion without self-abandonment. Presence did not make me passive. It made me more responsible for the energy I brought into each moment. And that responsibility became empowering, because while I could not control other people's choices, I could become more conscious of my own. I could decide whether I wanted to continue a pattern, whether fear would speak for me, whether pain would harden my heart. I could decide whether I would pause long enough to hear a deeper truth. And this is where healing began to feel practical. It was not only something I thought about, it became something I practiced in conversations, in moments of grief, in conflict, in solitude, in the quiet decisions no one else could see. Presence became a way of returning to myself, and today I would like to invite you to practice that return. You do not need to do anything complicated. You do not need to force yourself into stillness. You do not need to make your mind empty. Simply pause. Take one slow breath. Notice what is happening within you. Notice where your body feels open, and notice where it feels tense. Notice the thoughts moving through your mind. Notice the emotion that may be beneath those thoughts. And instead of trying to change any of it immediately, quietly say to yourself, I am here, I am listening. I do not have to solve everything in this moment, and let that be enough. Presence begins there, not with mastery, not with perfection, with the willingness to notice, the willingness to remain, and the willingness to meet yourself with a little more compassion than you did before. In the next episode, we will explore what happens when we begin observing our thoughts more carefully. We will look at the stories the mind repeats, how those stories shape our emotions and behavior, and how we can begin separating fear from truth. Because not every thought deserves our belief, and learning that can change the way we experience ourselves, our relationships, and our lives. Thank you for joining me today, and until next time, be gentle with yourself. Pause when you need to. Listen to your body. Listen to what it's telling you. And remember, healing doesn't always begin with changing what you feel. Sometimes it begins with becoming willing to stay present within it. This is the path to wholeness.